Hey everyone, this is Stephanie Lashley, and I'm excited to be part of the Humans of Telecom podcast.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host, Anurag Aggarwal. As you all know, this is where we move beyond the usual industry conversations to really get to know the people behind telecom, their journeys, their energy, and the perspectives that shape how they show up in this ecosystem. And today's guest is someone who brings a powerful combination of experience, energy, and impact. With over 2 decades in the telecom and CPaaS space, she's built a reputation as a thorough professional who understands both the strategic and the human sides of this industry. She's also been a highly active voice in the global telecom community, contributing through the MEF and playing a key role in driving the Women in Messaging initiative, helping create a more inclusive and representative industry. But what truly makes her stand out is her effervescent personality. Someone who brings not just expertise, but positivity, presence, and purpose into every room she walks into. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Stephanie Lashley, VP, Messaging Strategic Alliances and Infrastructure. Stephanie, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you, which part of the world do you belong to, and from where are you joining this podcast today?
Thank you so much for inviting me. I am so honored to talk to you today. I am a Kansas City, Missouri native, but I currently live in Prairie Village, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City. Today, I'm joining you from Fairhope, Alabama, where my father lives.
Stephanie, it's so nice to have you on the show. And I see you're a true blue American at heart. So has the US been your home forever, or during your fantastic journey, have you moved around the globe?
So I have always lived in Kansas City, but as you know, I get to visit many parts of the world through my work. And I think about moving to other places besides Kansas City a lot, but I call Kansas City home.
All right. So on that note, Stephanie, let's start with understanding your journey better. So I mentioned that you've got about 2 decades of experience in the telecom space, but walk us through your journey. How has your entire journey been? I know you're with Bandwidth now, but did you get into telecom by chance, or was there some interesting story behind it? And how's the journey been so far?
I started my career in telecom with a role in the long distance division of Sprint. I supported the fraud prevention group and implemented products and opportunities for automation that were designed to prevent fraud. I went on to implement Sprint products like the Automatic Payment Center, which was the 3-foot high red kiosks that customers could use to pay their bills in a Sprint store. I worked on WLNP, the implementation of 3G and 4G, and the first iteration of text messaging, which was called short mail messaging at the time. I started the Sprint Accelerator program, and in 2012, I started working on implementing RCS. It's hard to believe that I started working on that 14 years ago, and we're just now seeing it come to fruition. But as you know, Sprint was the first US operator to implement RCS on Android devices. But I think it was my final role with Sprint that was the most impactful. I was responsible for all messaging products and partnerships. And I really think it was this role that really prepared me for the role that I have now and have had for the last 7 years at Bandwidth. But I do have to call out the fact that I was introduced to Sprint and the telecom world pretty early on, probably around 8th grade, when my mother went to work for Sprint in the Regulatory and Government Affairs division. And she would come home and share her knowledge with me. So I was probably introduced to telecom fairly early in my life.
Interesting. So telecom runs in the family.
It does.
And interestingly, you said that she was on the regulatory side, and you also mentioned that fraud prevention was one of the areas you worked quite actively in. So I think there was a very strong rub-off effect from your mother, which really got you excited to be in the telecom space, something you don't hear about very commonly within this industry. And I must say that you've got a pretty fascinating journey. So a lot of concepts, like you mentioned about the RCS, or even if you talk about our plain vanilla SMS. So I think you have seen a lot in your career, which today is something which is very common knowledge. But I think you got a chance to experience a lot of these things much before time, right? So I'm sure you've seen how the entire evolution has been.
I have. And it's interesting to see how far it's come, yet how it's not changed. Um, Basically, what I'm trying to say is I've seen the evolution of text messaging and have come to realize that it really hasn't changed all that much. But I do rely a lot on the knowledge that I have obtained over the years through my various roles and working on various products.
Absolutely. And within this journey of yours, Stephanie, like I ask all my guests, that have there been any very specific, impactful or memorable moments you'd like to share with us?
Absolutely. So many, but I think a couple stand out. The first being just being a part of the bandwidth growth. When I started with bandwidth in 2019, messaging was really in its infancy at that time for the company. As you know, Bandwidth is a voice driven company, and Bandwidth was almost like a side project. But in the last 7 years, I've been at the forefront of Bandwidth's messaging product growth. I've been able to utilize my industry contacts, many of which I have had for years, to help grow the Bandwidth business. In the last 7 years, Bandwidth has experienced significant evolution in its messaging business. From 2019 through early 2026, transitioning from traditional SMS and MMS services to an AI-powered rich communication services platform. We are seeing a shift in high volume, and it's really exciting to be part of this growth.
I can totally get that. I think something which you see start right from scratch in front of you. And if you are playing a very instrumental role in seeing the growth, so it almost becomes like your baby. And then I think it's
Absolutely.
something that, yeah, so it really stays on with you and you get emotionally invested into it.
That's right.
Awesome. So now we've spoken enough about your career and telecom side. So I think we're going to keep that on a side, Stephanie. And let's start knowing about Stephanie, the human being. So, firstly, Stephanie, over 2 decades in this space, having worked on the voice side, now the messaging side, being so active in the industry, and having the Women in Messaging initiative also, which you are running. So, if I talk about this particular woman in messaging, is there anything shocking or surprising or unknown about you that you can share with us?
I don't know if it's surprising or shocking, but I love interior design. And I am constantly rearranging furniture, rearranging decor. I've been known to repaint a wall on a whim, or, change the color of the shutters on the outside of the house. I've always done this. And even when I was younger, I always painted my own room. I once refinished my own hardwood floors. It didn't look great and it was much harder than I thought it would be, but I really enjoy doing these types of things. Now I have YouTube to help me, but have been really doing some sort of interior design or decorating pretty much all of my life.
Interesting. So that helps you feed the creative part of your soul.
Absolutely.
And beyond this, are there some other passions or hobbies that help you recharge yourself?
I love to recharge by spending time in nature or working in my yard. I have a little garden that I've planted some butterfly flowers that attract butterflies and hummingbirds. I also love to spend time with my friends and family. I find opportunities to spend time with my friends as often as I can. I travel a lot for work, but I also love to travel with my friends and family. And I'm trying to see all 50 United States, and I only have three left. I have Alaska, North Dakota, and Delaware.
Yeah, if you would have said North Carolina, I would have been quite
Yeah,
surprised.
I almost said North Carolina. It's a little too easy for me to say North Carolina.
Yes, I think that's so. For all the listeners here, if I get it right, the headquarters of Bandwidth is in North Carolina. Is that correct?
That's right. It's in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Wonderful. So, all the very best. I think it shouldn't take you too much time to cover the remaining three states as well. And once you're done, maybe you should actually publish a travelogue or something about the entire experience. We'd all love to hear
Wow,
more
that's a
about
great
it.
idea. Maybe I'll do that.
Awesome. And now we come to a very interesting question, Stephanie. So, two truths and a lie. You need to share three interesting statements with us about yourself. Could be an incident or a fact about your life. And I'll try and guess which one of them is a lie. So, do you have three such statements for us today?
I do.
Okay.
So I can trace my ancestry back to the 14th century. I wrote a book when I was in the 5th grade. I have an 18-year-old daughter who is getting ready to go off to college.
Interesting ones. So, I'm going to take a chance here and I'll say that the third one is true. So, you possibly do have a lovely 18-year-old daughter who's gone on a mother. So, I'm sure that that one is true. The first and second ones, okay, I am going to take a chance and say that you have been able to trace your ancestry back to the 14th century. And we'd love to hear a bit more about this. And I hope maybe you've written a book as well in 5th grade. That would be very interesting. But just for the sake of this question, I'm going to presume that the second one is a lie and the first and the third are true. So, am I right out here?
You're actually wrong. So the first two are true and the third one
Okay.
is false. I have
Ah,
I have a 17-year-old son and he will be a senior in high school.
so okay. So you caught me out there. And I think that was a tough one for me to guess. But very well. So then, two very interesting statements which are true. So let's hear a bit more about this. So, what's been the experience of tracing your ancestry back to the 14th century, and what's this book that you've written in the 5th grade? Let's hear more about that.
So I have gotten really interested in ancestry.com. And so I sent my DNA off and they came back with a report. And I always knew that I was part Sicilian or maybe even mostly Sicilian. But what came back was that I am 98% Sicilian, only 1% Northern Italian, and 1% from Tunisia. So it's been very interesting to trace this back and see my ancestors and look at their names and see where they're from. So that one is true. I can trace my ancestry back to the 14th century. The second one, I wrote a book in the 5th grade as part of an assignment. Everybody had to do it. Everybody had to write a story. And then I took it a couple of steps further. I actually developed it into a full-blown book with chapters. And I got recognized at the Young Authors Convention. So it was really kind of cool. It was a cool experience for me.
And have you kept your passion for writing alive still?
I do. I love to write.
All right. So maybe after we release this episode, you can actually in the comments share with us some of your written pieces. And you never know, you might just get another writing assignment from somebody who's listening to this podcast.
Fantastic.
Awesome. And your roots go back to Italy. So
Yes.
as you said, you are 98% Italian or 99% roughly. How strong were your Italian roots?
Yeah, so 98% Sicilian. So they actually break it out. There's a distinction between Southern Italian and Northern Italian,
Mhm.
and they break it out in the report.
Okay. So you had a fairly specific level of detailing about your ancestry.
I did.
Yeah. And have you got a chance to visit Sicily ever?
I have. Actually, a couple of years ago, my husband and I went to Palermo and then traveled down into some of the other smaller towns like Trapani and got to see the salt mines. There's actually a salt mine named after my family. So my maiden name is Calcara, and there is a
Mhm.
Calcara salt mine in Trapani.
Awesome. So I guess you felt at home when you visited Sicily.
I did. I got some salt and brought it back from my family and took a lot of pictures. It was fascinating to see where my ancestors had come from.
Amazing. And now down to our final question of this section. So, Stephanie, While I can see you've had a fantastic life so far, but if there is any one thing you could possibly change about your life, what would that one thing be?
So this question is interesting to me. And I've listened to others who have answered this question here on the podcast. And I think there's a trend. And I'm sure you're picking up on it too. So most of us in this industry are pretty happy. Granted, there are some ups and downs, but overall, we all seem to be really grateful for the opportunities that have been afforded to us. We get to travel, we get to interact with and partner with our friends, people we've known in this industry for years. Many of us, as you know, have been in this industry for quite a while, and we all know each other very well. I've made some amazing friends by being able to work in this industry. So I would say my answer is probably very similar to others. I don't think I'd change anything. I think everything that I've experienced up to this point has brought me to where I am today. And I have to say that I'm very happy and grateful to be where I am in my life.
Yeah, I guess that's very true. So a lot of people have said that I think whatever have been the experiences in their life that has shaped them into what they are today, and they
Right.
would like to keep that as is. So I think that's a fair thought. All right. And on that note, Stephanie, we are down to our final question, our signature question. What does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
So being human to me means embracing empathy and being vulnerable, having connection with others. And the type of human that I want to be remembered as is I would want the world to remember me as kind and inclusive. So one of the things that I love to do that makes me feel fulfilled is making sure others feel included. And that's one of the reasons why women in messaging came to be, is making sure that other women have a seat at the table and feel included. And I love that.
Wonderful. So I think you are actually walking the talk. And I think your recent Women in Messaging initiative, I think that's a fabulous one. And we've earlier had Tina Donaldson also on this show. And I know that Tina is also a very active part of this. So I hope that that initiative actually spans out into something bigger, as we have a philosophy in this show that finally it's the humans which make this industry vibrant. So I think your Women in Messaging initiative is somewhere in some shades in that same philosophy. So I do hope that initiative grows in the coming months and years, and we see a lot more action in this space.
Yeah, that would be fantastic if it grew. It's already grown. It started as a dinner for 5 people. And now, based on location, we're kind of capping it at 50 people. But we have a lot of interest from many more and could probably get over 100 women to attend.
I'm sure you can. I think there is a lot of scope out here. So keep digging deeper. And I hope to see this initiative flourish in the coming months.
Thank you.
All right. And on that note, Stephanie, thanks a lot. And thanks for your time. It was wonderful to have you here on the show. And I hope that maybe at some point of time in this year, we get to catch up in person soon.
Yes, I'd love that.
Awesome. So thanks a lot, Stephanie. And as always, to our wonderful listeners here, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a good glimpse of the human side of Stephanie Lashley, a true blue American with proud Italian roots tracing back to Sicily. Someone who has not only witnessed the evolution of the telecom industry, but has played a pivotal role in shaping it along the way. A creative soul with a deep love for interior designing, bringing beauty and balance into every space she touches. Someone who finds joy in nature, from gardening to simply soaking in the outdoors. And finally, a passionate traveler who's explored nearly all 50 states of the US, always chasing new experiences and perspectives. That for us is Stephanie Lashley. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, do stay tuned in, because we shall soon be releasing yet another episode and another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.